gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Shootin' the Schmidt, episode 18. We're not quite back to the original Thursday dates yet, but maybe we'll get back to it at some point. Happy Friday. Another brand new episode. Hey, consecutive weeks. All right, it's something. We're making progress. We're getting back to a somewhat routine, normal schedule. With that being said, let's get all the shenanigans out of the way. For those of you watching on the YouTube version, make sure to drop a like down below, help the podcast out, comment anything on any thoughts you have throughout today's episode. If you're on the listening platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, and Stitcher, make sure to follow the podcast episodes every single week. If you're on Apple, drop those 5-star reviews. We'd love to read them out live on the pod. And let's get the pod rolling with some good news. Drum roll, please. Gonna have to get a soundboard at some point because that would have been nice to have a drum roll. But regardless, good news to start with the pod this week. Orton and I will be returning to Florida here pretty soon. About a month from now, Orton and I will be taking a trip back down to Florida. Some of you may know we took our usual fairly routine spring training trip last March of 2020, right before all the COVID stuff went down. We got back, or we got it all done and got back just in time before literally everything got shut down, and everybody knows the story from there. But it's been a fairly routine trip, at least for my dad and I. But we got to take Orton this past time around. We had an absolute great time. That was one of Orton's first real trip outside of the home state in Michigan. And, you know, when I drive down to Florida, you're experiencing more than, just going from Michigan to Florida. I mean, you're going through tons and tons of states. And of course, since the end of last March, we've been still locked down. Spring training did kind of open a little bit this year, but it wasn't enough to warrant a trip out of us this year. We decided to not take the trip this year. I think I may have talked about this already at some point, one of our older podcast episodes, but decided to not take the trip. Just didn't really seem worth it. Things just didn't. It just didn't seem like it was going to be definitely not the same spring training experience, but definitely not even much of a worthwhile one. But with all of that and with COVID and all that stuff, it kind of helped us put together a trip for just about a month from now. We're planning on, I believe, June the 18th is our scheduled first day, the day we head out. And just Orton and I. Be kind of weird. I think this will be the first trip that I take that's not really a family trip. Usually seems like almost every year our family's got something that we do. But Orton and I just wanted to get away. We've obviously had all this craziness with COVID for the last 14, 15 months or so now. And haven't really gotten to do much of anything. Not that we're the most adventurous of people anyway, but, obviously missed out on the spring training trip this year. Didn't even really get to do much besides, just stay at home and work for the last little over a year, like I've said. And, we're ready to get away and just spend a week and have some fun, hang out, get away, hang out in the beauty that is Florida, and I'm excited. It should be a good time. Nothing, I don't think overly exciting planned at this point, but just a week to hang out, have some fun, get away, and that sounds phenomenal right now. Like I said, over the last year of just not going to do anything. Even if you wanted to, not really anything available or much you could do, or at least not in the same fashion with the restrictions and whatnot that have happened over the last year. But it'll be exciting to take that trip, get down to Florida, and obviously Florida's pretty well open. I mean, we're seeing a lot more openings go here over time as we're nearing what looks to be the end of COVID and the pandemic and whatnot. Looks to be coming toward the end, which is good news. I'll have more on that in a little bit, but yeah, but Florida's wide open. I mean, at least here in Michigan, we've had one of the stricter restrictions, I guess, pretty much since the beginning. And things haven't really let up too much. Florida's been open for a little while. Some other states have also been open for a little while. So, it'll be nice, like I said, just to get away. I love Florida. Every time I've been down there, it's been nothing short of a tremendous time. So, excited to get down there and get away and have some fun. Should be a great time. We're also planning on hopefully doing a podcast live. Well, I guess technically not live, but doing a podcast hopefully from Florida. Thought that'd be pretty cool. Hopefully we can put that together. Obviously, I won't have the exact same setup because here with how I have everything set up, not gonna be able to take all that with me. So. But we'll get a mic, we'll get a laptop down there and see if maybe we can put a little something together. I think that'd be cool to do one live from Florida and bring that experience. So fingers crossed. Hopefully we can make that work. That'd be really cool. Speaking of all the coronavirus pandemic, all that stuff, I was just talking about how it looks to be nearing the end, and we got some great news just yesterday. That came from the CDC. The tweet I saw came directly from the White House. Those who are fully vaccinated no longer have to wear a mask. Awesome news. Awesome news. I'm not one of the ones that has been vaccinated, but just regardless, like this is great news in general. Just to see, again, another step taken toward what looks to be hopefully the end of all of this. Any progress is good progress. And it looks as though masks in general are, they're seeing their end and openings are finally coming more and more into sight. It looks like the light at the end of the tunnel is very close to being very bright. There's talks and rumors that, hopefully by the end of the month that things are going to be damn near close to normal, vaccinated or not. We'll see. Time will tell. But things have obviously been trending in a very good direction. There's been a lot of people who have gotten vaccinated, and we haven't, at least to my knowledge, had any recent spikes or anything of that sort in the virus in, at least a little while now. And all that's great. So hopefully we're nearing the end of this thing. It's been going on for far too long, and hopefully we can get back to at least very close and relative normalcy here very, very soon. To have that by the end of the month, right before summer, all that stuff would be fantastic. Like I said, for Orton and I going down to Florida, all of it's pretty much more or less opened up anyway, except for, maybe some certain businesses or whatever who may still have some restrictions on their own individual accord, but more or less it's wide open. So we've got that covered in June regardless, but to have everything back open and no more restrictions and just have life back to normal, which has not, it's something nobody's seen in over a year. It just sounds heavenly, and I'm ready for it. It's ruined a lot of things. It's been a rough time over the last year for a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And to think that we're finally nearing the end of this thing when it seemed, so unsure for so long of when it would come. Hopefully it's very, very, very close to being done. But regardless, like I said, it's good news that we're at least seeing this come out. It shows that, at least it looks that we're very close to progress. Hopefully, like I said, if things go well for another few weeks, month or so. Maybe we'll see vaccination or not. Just have mask mandates taken away worldwide, or at least countrywide. But we'll see. Time will tell. But good news regardless. Happy to see that that take place, and good news for all of you that are vaxxed. We're very close. We're so close to the end. Let's end this thing. Moving on. What do we got next? We got, oh man, spicy one. So kind of relating to the Call of Duty community. For those of you that played Call of Duty Modern Warfare, or if you've played even any of the old Call of Duty Modern Warfares, you'll know a character by the name of Ghost. Ghost was a character back in the original Modern Warfare 2. Only lasted throughout that game because, spoiler alert, he was killed in that game. But with the reboot of Modern Warfare, to where they just kind of revamped the story, used a lot of the same assets and characters, but just kind of told a completely different story. With all that, Ghost made a return, not in the traditional campaign, but as the story kind of continued as the year went on, and they told some stories through multiplayer and Warzone and stuff, Ghost made a return, and he featured a new voice actor, as a lot of the characters that were brought back did. Price had a brand new voice. Gaz had a brand new voice. A lot of the characters had all new voice actors and stuff. I mean, it's been, over 10 years since the last time we had a Modern Warfare game prior to this last one. So not really surprised to see new voice actors. And the voice actor for Ghost this time around was Jeff Leach. Of course, some mixed opinions on whether he's a better voice actor than the original or not, or whether he's a fan favorite, regardless. But Jeff Leach had some stuff go down over this last week. To my knowledge, this stuff actually took place a while ago. Like, this is pretty old stuff that's coming about, and it looks as though ties between Activision and Jeff Leach have been severed. It looks as though Jeff Leach will no longer be the voice actor for Ghost going forward, assuming we get another Modern Warfare title, which looks about as damn near guaranteed as anything else you could guarantee. With the success of that game, I mean, pretty much, a lot of people like to argue back in the Modern Warfare 2 to Black Ops 2 era was the peak of COD. We had another peak with this last Modern Warfare, so it's almost guaranteed that we will get another one. But it doesn't look like Jeff Leach will be around to voice Ghost this time around, due to some stuff that came up with his live streams and some rather, call it raunchy or inappropriate behavior. When this news broke, I didn't like how it sounded because it just screamed cancel culture to me. And it's something we've talked about in previous episodes here on the podcast, but just when it came out, it just screamed cancel culture. The headline was something to the extent of ties between Jeff Leach and Activision have been severed due to sexism allegations. It was something of that sort. And I mean, reading that headline, I'm just like, oh, great. Something probably near meaningless or potentially even a joke probably got said. They got taken out of context, and people are trying to get him canceled for it. But no, it took a wild turn because, of course, in the article, they had the clips leaked the clips linked rather from his live stream. And, to kind of see where things were coming from, I took a look myself, and yeah, they were pretty bad clips. Not going to play them or discuss anything specifically of what was said, for, obvious reasons, but, yeah, it was pretty bad stuff. Jeff, I guess, was just, I don't want to use the word attacking because it makes it sound bad, but, and depending on the backstory and whatever else, that you've heard, could be, I guess, said to be defending himself, but, I guess there was this woman that he was directing comments to in his chat or whatever, and they were pretty harsh. There's no real other way to put it. They were pretty, vulgar comments. Like I said, there was some talk of, the backstory of whether this was deserved by the supposed lady in chat or not, depending on what she said and whatnot. But regardless, yeah, I mean, these just weren't good comments to make, especially with someone who's directly involved with Activision and is a voice actor for the game. I mean, this is stuff that, most other if most other people were on there, another streamer, especially even a smaller streamer, people would just be looking at it and go, whew, like, things got a little spicy. And, obviously it wouldn't really change whether the comments were good or not. It just probably wouldn't be taken as seriously. And I don't really have a problem with Activision not liking the comments that Leach made, and having a problem with displaying that kind of stuff on a live stream when he is directly involved with Call of Duty. I guess I just have a problem with how it was presented. Like I said, when I saw the headline, I was like, oh man, this is cancel culture. And now I look at the headline and I go, I don't think that this is an accurate headline. Because I guess the main problem with a lot of the stuff that Jeff said, like I said, was it was an allegation of sexism. And I guess if you look at, I mean, to me, the argument that it's sexism is directly pulled from just the fact that his comments were directed toward a female. Not even that the comments were in and of themselves sexist. When you think of a sexist comment, you think of directly, violating a woman just because and saying this or that or the other thing just because that she's a woman. Same thing if it were to be done to a male, say or act in some certain way or do whatever just because of the fact that they're a male. That's how you would think of it. But I don't think that these comments were made based on that at all. It just, the only thing that screamed to me was Jeff was just pissed, obviously, for whatever reason, and snapped and made some, like I said, vulgar comments, but nothing to me that screamed sexism by any means. Like I said, yeah, his comments were vulgar and they were directed toward a female, but they weren't, is this making sense? Like they weren't like hateful comments just because she was a female. Sure, there were some comments, some sexually inappropriate comments made, but again, not what I would label as sexist. Not some stuff like, and maybe look, I'll openly say maybe I missed some clips, some other parts. I saw a couple clips. Maybe there was more. Maybe there's other stuff that Jeff has said. I'll say that, but from what I saw, there was nothing of like, a stay in the kitchen type of comment, right? Pretty common one, pretty typical sexist comment that gets thrown around a lot. Nothing of that sort. Nothing like a wage gap comment or something like that. Like those are typical like sexist things that get thrown around a lot, especially towards women. It was nothing of that sort. They were just vulgar comments, which I'm not saying are a good thing. And like I said, I think Activision, I don't have a problem with Activision disliking that and taking action on Jeff, because that's not a good look, for someone who's directly involved with the game. But I don't like the way it was labeled at all. It just didn't make a lot of sense. I just think about like if I always like try to reverse the roles and think like, would this have happened if it was a female voice actor for COD, whatever, and there was some stuff directly, thrown at a male in the chat, let's say, would the same thing have happened? Or at least would it have been labeled as sexism still? I just don't like the way it was labeled. If you want to get rid of Jeff because he made some vulgar comments and kind of made an ass of himself on live stream when he's, a guy that's directly involved in your game, yeah, I mean, by all means, like that's up to you. That's totally on Activision to do that. And based on some of the stuff I saw, yeah, I don't think that's a totally unreasonable action to take. But I mean, to label this stuff as sexist, I don't know. Seems pretty far fetched to me based on the things that I saw. But an interesting story. It kind of sucks we won't see Jeff back because I feel like he did a pretty decent job with Ghost. A lot of people, ever since Ghost kind of came back into the scene with Modern Warfare, a lot of people weren't totally excited to see that the original voice actor wasn't there for Ghost, and that it was pretty different from the original. So I guess we'll see who gets to be the voice of Ghost next. When the new game comes, maybe it'll be something that kind of more accurately represents something closer to the original, or at least is just maybe a more appealing voice actor in general for those who didn't like Jeff as the voice of Ghost this time around. I really didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was pretty well done, but I can see some gripes to where it didn't really represent much of the original Ghost character. Nothing like of what Barry Sloan did with Captain Price, to where Barry was an entirely different character and totally different voice compared to the original Captain Price that we had in the old Modern Warfare games. But I think he blew it out of the water as far as he did that much better of a job. Maybe they'll find that guy with Ghost, and Ghost will have a prominent role in the campaign this time around. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But a weird story. Again, no problem with necessarily the action that Activision took, but not liking the label of the headline. For those of you that maybe looked into the story or want to look into the story, take a look. Let me know your thoughts. But again, nothing to me screamed sexism to me. Let's move on. We got a couple sports topics. Tim Tebow. Tebow's back in the NFL. Tebow's bounced around a lot since he kind of became a big thing in college as a Florida Gator. And he's been, for a lot of people, a fan favorite guy. And there's also a good amount of people that dislike him for a lot of the attention that he gets. When you're someone like Tim Tebow who garners that much attention, you're going to have a lot of hate as well. And Tebow's bounced around a lot. He came out of college and immediately went to the Denver Broncos, went and led them to the playoffs, won a playoff game with them, as a matter of fact, and bounced around to, multiple different teams. The Jets, the Eagles, I believe, the Patriots. I think those are all right. Maybe even more teams than that. And then kind of, basically ever since, he had that good season with Denver and led them in the playoffs and whatnot, he really fell off and was never that successful as a quarterback in the NFL anymore. Then kind of stepped away from the NFL, got into more of a pastoral role, then spent some time in minor league baseball for a number of years, 5 or 6 years or so. And just recently, I think this season, decided to retire from baseball after his number of years in the minors, where he did pretty well, seemingly. Never cracked a major league roster, but from what I saw, at least had a semi-successful career in minor league baseball, which is cool to see a guy who was really all football, at least coming out of college and into his professional career. It's cool to see him go into baseball and have some success, albeit the minors. But hey, a lot of people that don't crack the minors, and especially a lot that don't have success in the minor leagues. But Tebow, after being done now with baseball, is going to be making a return to football. And this time not as a quarterback, but rather as a tight end, a position that a lot of people had said that he should look to moving to, a position that looked to be more fitting for him coming into the pro level. A lot of people just didn't see him being that successful of a quarterback in the NFL, but, making a position change, which is something that happens with a lot of college athletes when they come into the pros, switching to a different position and trying to see some success that way. So it looks as though Tebow will be doing that. He'll be playing tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Funny enough, his former college coach, Urban Meyer, now back there, brand new quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. Them getting the number 1 pick. They're going to be on a rebuild and looking to get something going with, like I said, new coach, brand new quarterback. And Tim Tebow will look to be joining the squad. I don't believe it's official yet, but it's been said for the last week or so to be in the works and very close and almost guaranteed to happen. It looks as though Tim Tebow will be suiting up as a tight end this season for Jacksonville. I'm not overly familiar with Jacksonville's depth chart and what else they have at the tight end position to see if Tebow will be like a starter for them, or if he'll just kind of be a role playing tight end for them of some sort. Getting limited snaps and stuff like that. Not too familiar with what they've got going on in Jacksonville, but being the fact that they just had the number 1 pick, I assume that they don't have a lot of spots already taken, at least assuredly. So we'll see what Tebow can do as a tight end. Like I said, had some mixed results as a quarterback his first time around in the NFL. He'll get some time as a tight end. He's, I believe, 31 now, so we'll see, how much athleticism he's still got, how well in shape he still is. I'm sure he's in plenty good shape, just being the athlete that he's been for so long. And it'll be interesting to see how he performs. Didn't really see Tebow coming back into the NFL. It just kind of seemed like that, he had let that part go. And, definitely if he was to come back, didn't really see anything other than quarterback. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know if Tebow has ever played tight end in any other, on any other, team in any other level of football, whether he's done it before in high school, or I don't think he ever did it in Florida, to my knowledge. I can't imagine. I believe he had Aaron Hernandez as his tight end, at least at one point in Florida. So, we'll see how this goes. I guess this is something for Jacksonville that's just kind of like, why not? Give him a shot, at least see what he can do. I'm kind of hoping Jacksonville is not like all into this, because I don't think anyone, like I said, has seen Tim Tebow play tight end. But I guess, like I said, for Jacksonville, what do they got to lose? Pretty much starting from scratch as far as that team goes. We'll see how things work. It was funny to see a lot of conversation get brought up with this as well, with Tebow getting another shot and him coming back. Of course, talks resumed of Colin Kaepernick. Why is Tebow getting a spot and another opportunity, but yet Kaepernick hasn't been given an opportunity? All that stuff has started to swarm back around. I mean, you couldn't compare two more polar opposite guys, at least the way I see it. Obviously, I don't know either of them super well, but just from what I see, I mean, two totally polar opposite guys. And I can tell you one thing for sure, Tebow, when he goes for his opportunities and when he gets them, he takes advantage of them. Meaning he actually shows up when media and scouts and people from teams are going to be there to assess his performance. Unlike what Kaepernick did. Yeah, I'm not buying this argument for, and of course, as with everything, race has to get brought into it. Well, Tebow's white. That's why he got another opportunity. Yeah. Not because Kaepernick has, acted a fool about the whole thing over the last number of years and, had his opportunities to, put on a showing in front of team scouts and stuff like that, and then not show up for them and then make another bigger ordeal. I know Tebow is also for a lot of people, polarizing, depending on your thoughts and whatnot. But, you know, I guess I don't know what to say. Tebow's done things right. That's all I can say. He gets a lot of flack, obviously, for his beliefs and all of those things, but he goes out and he handles things the right way. And to me, whether he, succeeds in Jacksonville and whether this opportunity does work out or not, hey, I think he's earned it. Why not? Give him a shot. A team like Jacksonville that's struggling, why not? And one thing about Tebow, he's not a distraction. Something like at least what it appears to be Kaepernick would be very much of. But that's one man's opinion. Take it for what you will. Regardless, Tim Tebow is going to be getting another shot in the NFL. Best of luck. Hopes aren't overly high, as I've never seen Tim Tebow play tight end, but we'll see how things work out. Maybe he might be a low-key fantasy football steal for this upcoming season. Of course, there's been the running joke for forever on, drafting Tim Tebow in case he was to come back, because it's like Brett Favre with all these comebacks that he tries to make in the NFL, but he's coming back this time around. We'll see if he's kind of that sneaky fantasy guy with this upcoming season. But moving on to some more sports stuff. We're going to keep it with some polarizing figures, I guess. Russel Westbrook is now the all-time triple-doubles leader in the NBA. He passes Oscar Robertson, the Big O, Mr. Triple-Double himself, the guy that seemed to have the record that was going to hold forever as far as triple-doubles go. And Russell Westbrook just surpassed him here in this past week, hitting 182. And now Russell Westbrook is Mr. Triple-Double. All the stats come out all the time. ESPN can never seem to shut up about it, how this guy's averaged a triple-double over this span and this many seasons, and he had another one and this and that. And, it's one of those things to where I don't know how to assess it, right? And look, maybe it's my bias. I'm not a big Russell Westbrook guy. With all this stuff and all the success and the accolades and stuff he's had, at least in the stat sheet, I just look at it and anybody else can look at it too and see it's never amounted to anything with any team he's been on. Believe he's still only been to that one NBA Finals with the Thunder, in which he also had Kevin Durant when they faced the Miami Heat in, 2012? I don't believe, unless I'm forgetting a season, that Russell Westbrook has been back to a final since. Of course, when KD left, he had those, few years in OKC where, not much of a team was there. Then he goes and tries to win with Harden, and they can't get anything going. Now he's with the Wizards. They're an abomination of a team. I'm not saying Russell Westbrook's always been in the best position to win, but you would think somebody that puts up these kind of numbers and is this much of a all-around player, which is what a triple-double more or less kind of implies, his teams just haven't really had a lot of success. And of course his attitude for a lot of people is polarizing. So maybe this is me as a you can call it a Westbrook hater, I guess. I'm just not personally a big fan, but I don't know how to assess this record. I don't. And truly with triple-doubles in general. I mean, regardless, hats off to Westbrook for achieving this. Whether you look at the triple-double as something that is as insane of a thing to achieve as it's always been or whatever, regardless, to pass someone of Oscar Robertson's standard of a record of that kind and to, achieve those accolades for as long as he has now, regardless, hats off, well done. He's made his mark on the NBA for sure. And Russell Westbrook, because of that, is now Mr. Triple-Double. Okay? Regardless of how you feel about it, that's just the facts. But I look at triple doubles nowadays in the NBA and I just don't know that they have the same feeling because they happen every night. Right? And not just with somebody like Russell Westbrook. I mean, every night, right? When in the NBA, it seems like when, ESPN will have a post of this person had a triple double or this person had a near triple double, missing by a rebound or something. It just seems so commonplace now in the NBA that, the superstar players are getting triple doubles. And to me, and this isn't, like I said, a knock on Westbrook because good on him that he's achieved this, but it kind of just hurts the value of the triple-double in my mind, right? Like when it happens so often, like can it really be that big of a deal? I don't know. Maybe triple-doubles have been, I can't even say that. I know they haven't. Triple-doubles just weren't that commonplace of a thing. For really ever. I mean, when someone had one, it was a big deal. Double-doubles were a big deal. And now, like, double-doubles are routine for any superstar player. I mean, if you don't have a double-double and you're considered the best player on your team, like, it's kind of weird to see now. Whereas before, double-doubles were looked at as a very, very good night. Call it 15 years ago or so. And triple-doubles are so commonplace. Like I said, it's kind of rare you don't see one on a night of games in the NBA. Or at least, a couple nights that you don't see one. You don't have a full slate of games and you don't see a triple-double. It's weird. It's not... I don't want to argue that it's not as impressive, but I just don't hold it to the same value when it's something that occurs that much. It's if it, I'm trying to think of how to compare this. I'm not really sure. It's just when something happens that often, like how can it continuously be that impressive? I don't know. And like I said, with Westbrook's lack of team success with all the teams he's been on, I don't know. I guess I'm arguing this more because this whole triple-double thing brought up a big debate on where Westbrook ranks as all-time point guards and if he's a Hall of Famer and all this stuff, and probably will be a Hall of Famer. I think that is more or less set in stone. He's been a stud. He's been an all-star player throughout his entire career, basically, in the NBA. But I don't think he ranks amongst the top point guards. I don't really think he's that close. Because there was a lot of talk of he's top 2, top 3 point guards of all time. And I'm mind blown. There was, I forget who it was now, but there were people saying that he's number 2, only behind Magic Johnson. I'm sorry, but did Steph Curry die? I mean, is anybody going to argue that Westbrook's had a better career than Steph Curry has? Or even someone of Chris Paul's standard, right? And what he's done. No, he hasn't averaged a triple-double. He's kind of been the opposite of Westbrook. He hasn't had the mind-blowing stats, or what gets labeled as the mind-blowing stats, but everywhere Chris Paul has gone, he's brought team success. He's with the Suns now. The Suns, who are, not one much to talk as a Pistons fan, but the Suns were a laughingstock in the NBA for how bad they were, and a franchise that was ruining an all-star career and that of Devin Booker out in Phoenix, and Chris Paul goes there. To my knowledge, one of the only changes the Suns made, like this year to last year, I mean, probably some few others, but maybe not very many notable ones. And now they're the number 2 seed in the West, when they've been bottom, rock bottom for years. Since that stud team they had with Nash and Stoudemire and Sean Marion and all those guys. Since then, I mean, they've been terrible. And Chris Paul goes there, and their whole team turns around, and they have massive success. I don't put Westbrook above Chris Paul all time. I don't know if Westbrook cracks top 10. I don't know. And like I said, with triple-doubles becoming so much more common in the NBA, I mean, Look, 182 is not anything to scoff at. That's not my argument. But, I mean, for that to be a sole argument for one of the best of all time, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a big Westbrook fan, so maybe you look at it and go, hey, you're biased. Maybe I am. I don't know. I don't think this is an accomplishment to turn a blind eye at by any means. Like I said, 182 triple doubles, even if it is somewhat commonplace, like that's a lot, and you're number 1 all time. That's nothing to just pass along and act like it's nothing. But Westbrook gets a lot of praise for these triple doubles and doesn't really seem to lead anywhere. And I'm not one of those guys that's going to argue he's a stat patter, right? Because to go out there and, individually try to, add all that up mathematically every night just to ensure a triple-double so you're talked about on social media, I don't think that can really run through a player's head, in my opinion. I don't see how you can be in the heat of a professional competitive environment and you're somehow able to just like solely achieve that people act like he goes in and he talks to his centers, right? And says, hey, just make sure I get the rebound. Like, don't do your job. Make sure I'm the one getting the rebound so that I can get these triple doubles. I'm not that conspiracy theorist about it, but I don't know. I guess this just brought up a big debate on where Westbrook stands all time as a point guard. And I don't think, just with how commonplace triple doubles have become, that, that can be a sole argument for why Westbrook is, especially a top 2-3 point guard of all time. I don't get the argument for me personally, but I'm not a Westbrook fan. So maybe that's where that comes from. Again, leave your thoughts down in the comments. If you're watching on the YouTube version, let me know what you think. But for me, no, Westbrook definitely not in the conversation for me as one of the tops of all time. Again, a phenomenal accomplishment. And, he does get a lot of hate because he is a polarizing figure, but regardless, a phenomenal accomplishment, and he's been a stud. I do think that he should be in the Hall of Fame when it's all said and done. He's been a phenomenal player, all-star caliber player throughout his entire career. He's been great. But to argue somebody like him as a top point guard of all time when he's, not just hasn't won a finals, right? Because the finals are a difficult thing to win, and to win multiple of them, especially with how much talent's in the NBA now, man, it's tough. It's tough to do. But I mean, he's been on teams that have barely made playoffs, right? And his teams haven't always been phenomenal, but they haven't been that bad to where somebody who is, quote unquote, making that much of an impact, it should be making the playoffs relatively easily, at least. My opinion. Anyway, we'll close the Westbrook conversation. We'll get one more last thing in here. This sounded like it was going to be a relatively decent topic to talk about, and turns out it's probably not. So we'll throw it in real quick here at the end. But there was talk of Modern Warfare 2 Remastered. Again, I know it's been, my God, it just doesn't go away. And it never will until if it ever does officially come out. But Modern Warfare 2 Remastered was brought up again this past week. initially there was said to be rumors that this year's COD was going to be canceled, at least on the multiplayer front. As we talked about last week here on the podcast, Sledgehammer was confirmed as the developer for this year's Call of Duty. And Activision gave the usual, I don't want to say BS, but more so of what else are they going to say besides the game looks great and, it's on par to come out at the end of this year and blah, blah, blah. But there was initially reports that the multiplayer was in really rough shape and that we were for sure going to see Modern Warfare 2 Remastered this year. And a few hours later, it came out that it's not actually what was said. And then it brings on more talk of when and if we are actually going to see this game. And, I said this last year before Black Ops Cold War came out, but this might, if there is going to be a year, it's got to be this year, right? Because it's set, like Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, from everything that I know, is done. They're just literally keeping it in the back pocket for a year in which Call of Duty is in trouble, right? It's their golden ticket to get them out of a shitty spot. And, could you be in much of a worse position with a development team that had to get pulled off of the last game because they couldn't get it done? And then you're putting them on another game this year and you're making the game in an era that everybody hates, or at least the vast majority of the community hates. Can't speak for everybody. Could you be in a worse spot? And a lot of other games coming out this year, a couple other really big popular first-person shooters. Battlefield looks to be coming out strong this year. Halo Infinite's releasing. To me, what better time? But we'll see as we get closer. Bottom line, the initial reports that came out didn't look like seems as though they weren't very accurate. But, it gets talked about all the time of when we'll actually see this come out, and nobody knows. I'd be surprised to see it this year just because this was my thought when the reports came out. Why, if it's in such bad shape that they're really damn near committed to dropping Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, then why a week prior would they come out and talk about Sledgehammer making the game and it's looking good and all that stuff? If in the matter of a week, it looked as though that the complete opposite was the case, wouldn't they just not say anything yet? But that was my initial thought when the reports come out, and we'll see how things go. But if we don't get it this year, it almost surely won't be coming next year because we've got the next Modern Warfare title coming out. And, I would assume that's in pretty good shape, based off of the success Infinity Ward had last time. Just build on it and improve on the things you didn't do so well on the last time would be my advice. But, so, it looks like we're in good shape for a COD title in 2022. So then it looks to after that. But, in a year with a pandemic and a inconsistent development team and a game that's set in an era that's not a fan favorite, for me, I can't think of a better time to drop Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, but that's just me. I won't get too much into it because the topic's been beaten to absolute death over the last number of years, but wanted to throw it in because, once again, it did come through the pipeline again, and it will continue to until the day that it releases. Can't wait for that day because the rumors get tiring. But so we're going to start to wrap things up here for the podcast. I want to thank you guys all for tuning in to this week's episode of Shoot the Schmidt. For those of you on the YouTube version, make sure to smack the Schmidt at a like button down below. Help out the pod. Comment any thoughts that you had on anything we talked about in this week's episode. For those of you on the listening platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, and Stitcher, be sure to follow, stay up to date with brand new episodes coming out every single week. If you're on Apple, drop those 5-star reviews. We'd love to read them out live on the pod. That's where we're going to wrap things up. Want to thank you guys once again for tuning in to another episode. We'll be back next week with episode 19 of Shoot the Schmidt. We'll see you guys then. Have a great week, everybody. Peace out.